Good afternoon. My name is Joel Garcia. Today I will provide a short presentation on data analysis in K-12 education. So a little bit about my background. I have a bachelor's of business administration with an emphasis in computer information systems and quantitative methods, a master of business administration with an emphasis in project management, and I'm currently working on a doctorate of business administration with an emphasis in leadership. I'm a Texas certified public manager, a certified Scrum Master, and Google certified educator level 1. I've worked in technology for the past 20 years. The last 10 years have been in K-12 tech, 7 of those years at CISD, and 3 years at Region 1 Education Service Center. I currently serve as the Executive Director for Technology and Information Systems at Mission CISD. Some of my recent work experience has included the support of student information systems, financial management systems, state reporting, SharePoint, software development, reporting services, and records management. Again, today's topic is on data analysis. So data analysis is a process of inspecting, cleansing, transforming, and modeling data with the goal of discovering useful information, informing conclusions, and supporting decision making. Its practical use includes human resource planning, financial and marketing activities, operations, and to manage customer relationships. In particular, today we're going to talk about data analysis in K-12 education. And a big focus today is going to be on state reporting, or as what school districts know as PEIMS, the Public Education Information Management System. Before I jump into the details of state reporting, there are a few things I'd like for you to consider. In many areas, school districts are the largest employers in the area. And computer programmers in school districts typically wear many hats. One of them is typically supporting information systems, such as the student information system or the business system. Some of their work also includes developing reports, dashboards, data analysis, and in some instances, they may be tasked with developing software. So now getting into the state reporting, or PEIMS as it's known in school districts. PEIMS is really important for school districts because it impacts their accountability, their funding, compliance, and research. School districts have to submit data to the state several times a year. Listed here are 10 different submissions that need to be completed. And now, because of the COVID situation, the state is requesting additional data. So there's been about 2 more submissions that have been added to state reporting. So again, one of the major impacts of the data that's reported to the state is the accountability system, right? So the accountability system is how the state rates school districts. For example, an A is exemplary performance, a B is recognized performance, a C is acceptable performance, a D is in need of improvement, and an F is unacceptable performance. And the way those letter grades are calculated are based on how a school does in the different domains. And the domains are listed on the right-hand side of the slide. So domain 1 is student achievement. And in that domain, what's looked at is the college, career, and military readiness indicators and graduation rates. In domain 2, school progress, the STAR results and the achievement of all students relative to districts or campuses with similar economic disadvantage percentages. That's what's looked at. In domain 3, closing the gaps, we use the disaggregated data to demonstrate differentials among racial and ethnic groups, socioeconomic backgrounds, and other factors. So again, the state utilizes the data from these 3 different domains to calculate the campus and the district letter grade. So now getting into the actual role of the person at the district, the computer programmer, you may be asking yourself, well, what exactly are the data sources, right? So the state gets this data, but where does this data originate? And so in some cases, it's data that's at TEA that gets submitted from testing agencies such as College Board, IB, ACT, or the Higher Education Coordinating Board. And in many instances, a large portion of the data is through the Public Education Information Management System. Again, that's the PEIMS or state reporting. And that data comes from internal systems such as the student information system and financial management system. And so you may ask yourself, hey, I'm a programmer at a district. What exactly is my role? How does my work impact the district accountability? So your work is very important. We need to ensure that the data are accurate, right? And so some of that, in order to ensure that the data is accurate, that may involve collaborating with different personnel throughout each school district. So people at the campuses, such as the principals or assistant principals, the business office, human resources, the special education department, the bilingual department, career and technology department. Working with them, looking at the data to ensure that it's accurate, and if there are any discrepancies, revising that data and making sure while that work is happening that the district and those programs are following the program guidelines set by the state. And when this work is being conducted, it's always good to look at the bigger picture and then also find ways to look at the data in which you can identify trends and or discrepancies. So in my personal experience, I would always use multi-year data to look at the trend for that data that's being collected. That was very helpful in identifying any kind of discrepancy or any trends that, if things were trending up or down. So here's the impact of a real scenario with the data. So in one situation, we had independent dual credit courses taken by students were not in the master schedule in the student information system, right? So what this means was that a high school student was taking college classes, but those classes did not exist in the student information system, right? So the student was taking a class on their own at one of the local colleges or universities. And so what that meant was that the CCMR component of accountability gives credit to a student that takes college hours, right? So if those classes were not in the system, then they would not be reported to the state. Thus, the district would not be maximizing CCMR, right? That component of the accountability system. So if we don't report it, then again, it may impact CCMR negatively. So how did we resolve it? We work together with the college readiness team at the school district and with the campuses to add the courses, add the grades, and ensure the data was reported to the state accurately, maximizing CCMR for that campus and for the district. So that's just one scenario. And this is why, again, looking at the data, putting it in a format where you can easily see if the data is trending downward or upward, you can catch some of these discrepancies and then take action to clean the data and then again, maximize the accountability. Another scenario that we had was where grades were posted for dual credit courses in the incorrect field in a student information system, right? This may happen, and some of this may be related to lack of training, and so if they were in the wrong field in the student information system, when the person who was working with the data was running pass-fail calculations, then the data was not coming out accurately. If the grades were not there, the system was set up to report a failed field for that course. And so again, the way that we were able to catch a discrepancy such as that was by looking at the data with multiple years, right? And so when we saw that there was a high failure rate for the dual credit courses, we went back, we looked at the data, identified what the issue was, which was that the grades were not in the correct field. We worked with the different teams and with the campuses. We corrected the data, ran calculations again, and the data was now accurate, right? So we reported accurate data, thus positively impacting, again, the CCMR component of accountability. This is another impact, another real scenario, and how sometimes the analysis piece also kind of works hand in hand with software development. And so again, knowing that CCMR was really developed by the state to ensure that students were getting opportunities in college, career, and military readiness. Um, if a student earns a point in CCMR, typically that's a good thing. They're getting, that means the student is getting these opportunities, right? But how does a school district easily identify the students that were not given this opportunity, right? So what we did uh, at a district that I worked at was we developed a dashboard that allowed us to easily see the number of students that had a CCMR point, and more importantly, see a grid of the students that were missing a point. And so we developed this tool that then helped the campus administrators with a few clicks determine which students did not have a CCMR point. And the impact came, right, in helping those students that didn't have a CCMR point, by helping them prepare to take college classes, by helping them prepare to take industry-based certification exams, by enrolling them in House Bill 5 courses. So those kind of interventions that can really positively impact a student's student outcomes. Okay, now one of the other big parts of state reporting is funding and compliance. And so again, school districts are funded through average daily attendance, and average daily attendance is different than student enrollment. So average daily attendance is the total number of days of student attendance divided by the total number of days in the regular school year. A student attending every day would equal 1 ADA. Again, ADA is not the same as enrollment, which is the number of students enrolled in each school and district. ADA has a couple of different components as well for the different programs. So within the ADA, there are areas for the bilingual program, for special education, career and technology, pregnancy and related services, and a few other items. One of the things that's really important about reporting ADA is ensuring that we are compliant with the Student Attendance Accounting Handbook, also known as the SAW. And we need to be compliant with the rules as stated in the SAW. And again, the data that gets submitted to the state also needs to be approved at the campus by the campus principal and then by the superintendent. And again, it's important that we're compliant, that the data is accurate and precise, and that we have all the required documentation. So in case of an audit, we are prepared with the backup for that data. All right, now getting into the analysis piece, right? I'm a programmer at a school district. Where is the data source? Well, again, we report this data through the PIEMS or state reporting. And so again, this data comes from the student information system. So what is my role again in funding, right? So one of the main things is that you work with your attendance office. You're a programmer, you're working with your attendance office to ensure that all the training and compliance piece is done, so that when the campus folks are working on the data, you know that the data is accurate and that the campuses are following proper procedure, right? And then part of ensuring that the data is accurate is running reports every 6 weeks. How does the attendance look, right? How do the different programs look? How does bilingual look? How does the special education data look? How does career and technology look, right? And working closely with those program directors to ensure that the data is as expected for that 6 weeks. And again, this is where some of the analysis comes in, right? Typically, you want to compare multiple years of data to see if it's on track to what it had been in prior years, or if it was trending upward or downward. And if it's trending upward, it may be a good situation. If it's trending downward, it may be a situation that may require the attention of one of the program directors to make a change for their program, right? And so one of the other ways that we will look at the data is not just year to year, but also 6 weeks to 6 weeks. So an example of a file that I may look at to review the data may be the first 6 weeks for the last 4 years and see what that looked like, right? And see if there's any trends up or down, and see if you can identify any discrepancies. And again, working alongside with the program directors, because they know their program a lot more than the programmer or the data person that's working on this data. One of the other ways I mentioned is that we can improve accuracy is through providing training on systems and on the program guidelines. So again, that requires collaboration with the program directors and working alongside campus staff that may be working with the system and coding the students. And again, reviewing the data, making corrections, and repeating until the data is accurate. And again, reviewing it in this instance, every 6 weeks so that you're not in a situation where you find a lot of errors at the end of each school year. You're actually fixing them throughout the school year. And in this case, the data is very important because it's what helps establish the budget for the following school year. Okay, so now let's jump into some real scenarios. And again, this has to do with the data at the coding at the student record level. So we had a situation where some campuses had a few of their students that had an incorrect bilingual or ESL funding code. So what we did was we worked alongside with or just to give you some context, the student information system uses the student ADA, right, their average daily attendance, and then it uses the bilingual ESL funding code in its calculation to determine the funding values. So if it is incorrect, it can negatively impact the program funding. And so again, the solution is, just like we mentioned several times, is collaboration and communication. So we worked in that scenario, we worked with the campuses to correct the errors and then rerun attendance calculations. And again, like I've said before, looking at multi-year trend data is very helpful to identify these type of errors, potential errors. In another situation, we had some courses that were career and technology courses that were missing the CTE indicator and the CTE contact hours. So again, CTE stands for Career and Technology, and these courses draw some additional funding. So the system, in many cases, information systems, use the student ADA and then the CTE contact hours in its calculation to determine funding values. So if a course is missing the CTE indicator and CTE contact hours, then you're not going to generate funding for that course. And so it's really important then to collaborate and work with the campuses. And in this case, with the master schedulers at the campus and with the program directors to look at the courses and ensure that they have the right configuration, right? The right service ID, the right CTE indicator, the right contact hours, so that when we run attendance calculations, they're correct. And the impact of this is very significant. They not coding, several classes could impact the program by several $100,000. So you always want to make sure that the data is accurate. Another scenario that could happen, it could happen where you have a student that is put in several different programs and decisions are made, and the communication isn't there. So one potential scenario is having a student who is special ed, he or she is special ed, and they're on homebound instructional setting. This typically means the student is getting instruction from their home. And in one instance, we saw that a student was put on flex attendance, and then that the schedule that they had for homebound didn't match the schedule that they had in the student system. And that even then, the student had a CTE course, which is a career and technology course, which is very rare because typically the teacher who teaches the CTE course has to be certified to teach that CTE course. And that's not typically common with a homebound teacher. So some of the things that we asked were like, why? Like, who's making these decisions? What's going on with the communication? And so again, the point I'm trying to stress here is even if you're a data person, it's always good to ask questions, right? Why, as you're looking at the data, you're looking at trends and you see things that maybe are a little bit unusual. It's always good to ask why and try to have a little bit more of a bigger picture, global picture of the situation, right? Not just report the data, hey, this is what's in the system, but ask like why is this happening? And working closely with the program directors and with the campus staff to find out if the data is truly accurate or if there is a situation where the data needs to be corrected. Because again, as a data person that's working with this data that gets submitted to the state, you want to ensure that the data is as accurate as possible and ensure compliance. Other impactful data that school districts tend to look at are enrollment trends. So there's a lot of competition among school districts, right, and trying to recruit students and hold on to them. So enrollment trends is big. School districts also look at assessment data. They look at high school graduation rates, and they also look at college hours and associate's degrees. You know, many school districts have low credit programs where many of the students are graduating with an associate's degree. So some of the other things to consider is if you're a data person and you're working with submitting data to the state or to just to your leadership, is looking at your processes, looking at the data quality. You know, I mentioned that a few times, that collaboration and looking at the data, looking at multi-year trend analysis are very helpful. But you know, you also want to see evaluate processes that you may have that may currently exist in your organization as related to data quality, right? So here I have a nice little picture I found online of some Lego folks where there's a Lego there with some wheels, but you see that the other people are struggling. They say that we are too busy, no thanks. And so they continue to struggle while there's someone with a better idea or better solution, right? So never be too busy to improve. And so some of the tools that we've adopted, that I've adopted at a couple of different locations, are from the American Productivity and Quality Center based out of Houston. They provide fantastic resources for process management and best in class protocols. And also DMAIC, which stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control, right? And so I've listed a few of the tools that I've used that complement DMIC and APQC for the purpose of improving processes at a school district. And in one scenario, I was able to improve the economic disadvantage form collection. And so the economic disadvantage form, which is really the income survey that's collected from students and from families, helps school districts determine the economic disadvantage percentage for the school district and for the campus. And again, you may ask yourself, why is that important? Well, that also, if we go back a few slides back, you'll notice that that also impacts accountability. It'll impact the domain 2 school progress portion of the accountability system, right? So by looking at the process and updating the process, it helped create better procedures at the district where it improved our economic disadvantage percentage and at the same time helped us ensure compliance for that program, right? So using the tools that I mentioned on the previous slide, we refined the process. We created a new process map. We developed software to capture the income survey online, developed standard operating procedures. Of course, we provided training, and as a district, it improved the accuracy of the economic disadvantaged percentage, which again, in turn helps improve funding for students and helps improve accountability. And again, anything, just want to say, I found this quote online, but there were so many different variations of it that I don't know who the original author was, but it states, you can only improve what you measure, right? And so by being able to measure, you know, in this case, the percentage of economic disadvantage, that's how we were able to improve and refine that process and ensure accuracy. So now, I know this isn't the live session, but some of the things that we talked about or that you may be asking yourself is, how do I get started with a career in data analysis? And so it's a very good question. I personally didn't get, you know, right out of college, I wasn't in data analysis. I went after graduating, I did do some more work on the network and infrastructure side before I transitioned to the data and software side. And so there isn't any clear path to data analysis, but I would recommend that if you are interested in working with data, that you know may gravitate more towards a career again in software development, programming, reporting, and then at that point, you know, you're able to then move in the direction of data analysis And now it's a tremendous field where people are using data analysis for predictive analytics and big data and so forth. So definitely would recommend, if you're interested in data analysis, moving or gravitating more towards the programming and data side. And another thing to consider is, well, why is data accuracy very important, right? How does it impact the community? And so, again, I always say, the data helps create a story, right? Create a story of what's actually happening. So, one example is, if you look at the data that I mentioned a little while ago, such as the associate's degrees and college hours, school districts could then have a goal to increase the number of the students that are graduating with associate's degrees. If you're graduating, or with industry certifications, right? And so if you're graduating students with more industry certifications and associate's degrees, again, a little bit bigger picture is that you would attract companies to the area that need folks that have those skill sets. And if you bring those companies to the area, then that creates employment opportunities for these students that have associates and industry-based certifications. And the thought is, if that happens, then again, there may be good paying opportunities that in turn help improve the local economy. Another aspect of improving and maximizing funding for school districts is the current situation that we're in right now with COVID, and how some families are still struggling with internet access, right? And so if we're able to maximize the funding for students, we may be able to provide better tools to the families, such as, a hotspot for families that may not otherwise have internet access. Okay. Well, that's all I had for today. I do want to share my email address and my cell number. So my cell number is 956-445-9949. My email address is joelg981@gmail.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn if you want to connect. And I just want to take the time to thank everyone for attending, and again also thank Mr. Andy Garcia from ITA for allowing me the opportunity to present today. Thank you. Y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you.